Oh, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. Hello, welcome.
Or morning for some. Good morning to those on the West Coast.
Yes, yes, yes. I need to get my temporal orientation right here. So let's go ahead with our check-in. Amy, Anna, and William.
Okay, so quality of an elder, just read each one that I think I have. Would be creativity. I'm going to add curiosity because I think they go together well. And one that I would like to develop, I don't know how to say it succinctly. Acceptance of my changing body.
Okay. Anna.
And Anna here. I believe that I have a pretty good sense of humor and take things lightly often. And I would still like to live in my heart more than in my head. I'm moving that direction and I want more of that. And I've spoken.
And we have heard. We've also heard Amy, although we forgot to prompt her to do the "and I have spoken" thing. Thank you. William?
As far as quality that I think wise elders have, I would also say curiosity and ongoing wonder and interest in the world around them and the people around them. And one quality I would like to develop is a quality of a wise elder that I would like to develop is equanimity in the face of um, just to be even and calm and unharassed no matter what the circumstance.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I have spoken.
And we have heard. Katie and Jody and Kathy, could you go next?
Okay, the quality I have now is almost an obsession to know everything. I'm a book reader. I go in, I want to learn everything. So this absolute, it's an over obsession to learn everything, which I guess is curiosity. The one thing I would like to develop is a real core sense of purpose in my life. I don't know what that will be in this next stage. And I have spoken.
And we have heard.
And I'm Jody. A quality I have today is kindness and compassion. A quality I would like to develop in the future, which I used to have, but has kind of lost sight of it a bit, is playfulness. And I have spoken.
And we have heard.
We have heard.
Hi, my name's Kathy. Everybody keeps mentioning curiosity. I also would like to, quality that I do have is I'm empathetic and a good listener. And I would like to develop my intuition and not be so analytical. And I have spoken.
And we have heard. Shanti and Rebecca, and then Roger.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shanti, and I feel I have kindness and compassion, and I would like to develop greater self-discipline. Now that I'm semi-retired, I've been relaxing a lot, but I feel like I need to develop great self-discipline. And I have spoken.
And we have heard.
I joined late. I do not know what the question is.
So let me repeat the question. Last week at the end of our session, I gave you some homework to identify the qualities, to think over the next week about the qualities of a wise elder that you have, to think in more depth about the qualities of the wise elder that you have and the qualities that you'd like to develop. And so we're asking for one quality of each.
Okay. I feel like I'm smart. I feel like my name is Rebecca. I feel like I would like to learn also how to come out of my head knowledge to my heart knowledge and improve that. I have spoken.
And we have heard. Roger?
I'm Roger. I got my picture straightened out.
Yay.
I'm very playful. I have a sense of humor. And I have a lot of experience in life, so I feel very wise in a lot of ways. And other people have commented about purpose. Reason I took this course is to figure out what I'm going to do for the next 10 or 15 years and live in my heart more than in my head. I have spoken.
And we have heard. I'd like to, I see Vicky has just joined us. She's new right now. And Vicky, you've kind of joined in mid-session. So I'm just going to go ahead with and not try to involve you in this piece of the exercise.
Okay,
Reese?
sure.
I'm just wondering if Vicky could introduce herself as we did the last time with her name, where she lives, and her years of life experience that we did last week.
Life experience as in how old I am, or?
Yes, we like to frame it as your years of life experience.
Okay, all right. Vicki Johnson, I live in Central Oregon. And life experience, I just turned 60. About
And-
60 and a half, I guess.
Well, welcome. We're glad to have you here.
And then we end by saying, and I have spoken, and then we all say, we have heard.
And I have spoken.
And we have heard.
We have heard. So now I'm going to read a brief poem by one of my favorite poets, Wendell Berry. If you don't, we'll of course send you the, Amy's already excited about it. If you don't know him, I recommend you becoming more familiar with him. I really love his work. And of course, as always, we will send you the poem with your recording of the session. The Peace of Wild Things. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world and am free.
Thank you, Georgiana. As we begin our second session of Awakening the Sage Within, we're just going to briefly review our intention and agreements for this series. Again, when you look at these slides, you may want to practice that slide bar feature that we introduced last week so that you can see the slide and all of us at the same time. Again, we are gathered today in a virtual circle. It's pretty amazing that we've gathered energetically from across North America, Canada, US, East Coast to West Coast, North to South, as well as across the Atlantic to Ireland to create this circle where we're connected by our intention and a group spirit. And I just feel like in the circle, it's so essential that all of us are here, and it's because you're holding the circle for, if one of us is missing, the circle feels like something's missing. So thank you all for being here. Georgiana is now going to light our candle to represent the center of our circle, to hold the center of it, and to symbolize the wisdom in each of us and the wisdom in all of us. We recall that our intention for this whole series is to explore saging, a vision of aging as a time for deep reflection and spiritual growth. We've agreed in order to do this work together, we need to create sacred space, and we've agreed that during our time together, we will honor confidentiality both in this larger group and in our dyads or threesomes. We will listen without judgment or advice and with curiosity and compassion. We'll speak with intention and brevity so that we can finish on time. And we agree to be responsible for our own participation. That means being as present as you can, taking care of yourself, passing when you need to pass, and also for the energy that we bring to the group, because we really do bring energy to the group. We're going to spend this second session exploring 2 more core saging topics. The first will be saging as a spiritual journey, or aging as a spiritual journey. And the second one is harvesting our life's wisdom.
A unique part of saging work is the emphasis on the spiritual aspects of saging and the spiritual aspects of our life journey or our life path from this point forward. There are many definitions of the word spiritual. In saging, we understand spiritual in the broadest sense, common to every culture and religious tradition, and to those with no religious beliefs or religious traditions. In saging, we understand spiritual to mean having a deep personal connection with ourselves, with others, and in addition to that, a deep connection with our past, with our present, and with our future. A deep connection with Mother Nature and with whatever we name as something greater or someone greater than ourselves. Whether we call that someone or something God, Jesus, Buddha, Allah, the universe, or the cosmos.
And as stated in our intention, saging it offers us a vision of aging as a time for deep reflection and spiritual growth. And with that, saging invites us to nourish all aspects of ourselves and integrate them into wholeness. Ancient wisdom and present-day psychology understand the self to include 4 aspects: our body, our mind, our emotions, and our spirit. And to be whole, we need personal balance in all aspects of our being in order to age well. So we are now going to take a look at how we nourish ourselves in each of these areas. So if you would please take out handout 5A, it's the one called Finding Wholeness and Balance. It's a grid on it. Okay, everyone have it handy? Okay, we're going to begin by working with this handout as a group. And so as we do, just take notes on your handout for what comes up for you personally or what someone else may say that really resonates with you. So we are going to explore how we take care of ourselves, and we're going to do it one at a time: body, mind, emotions, and spirit. And I'll be asking about each one at a time. And your responses may fit into more than one category, like, being in nature can nourish you in various ways. So just because you say it for body doesn't mean you can't say it for spirit. That's all I'm saying. So, and we're just going to do this popcorn style. So after I ask the question, call out your responses. So everyone could unmute right now to make it easier. Everyone could call out your responses, but just be careful to not speak over each other. Allow, after someone says something, just allow a pause before you say something. And we'll see how that works. If it doesn't work, we'll do something else. So first, let's start with your body. How do you nurture your body?
Eating well.
Eating well, thank you.
Exercise.
Exercise regularly.
Great. Any other ways you nourish your body?
Sleep.
Sleep. Yeah.
Rest.
Thank you.
I sit outside and look at the birds or look into the greenery and don't read, just reflect.
Beautiful.
Focus on body during meditation and breath work.
For me, spending time with animals, sort of playing with them, walking with them. It's important for my body. It does quite a lot of the other things as well. Yeah.
Yes, that could be that may be in every quadrant.
I
Right,
do
well,
yoga.
Yoga. Nice.
Qigong.
Anything else for body?
Deep nature reconnection actually does fit in all those areas, but deep communion with Mother Nature in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay, so
also keeping up with maintenance, keeping up with all of the kind of appointments, the medical and healthcare things one has to do. Sometimes I've neglected them and it usually doesn't end well.
I like that phrasing, maintenance.
Yeah.
On maintenance.
Mm.
We often so focus on improvement, we don't think of maintenance as actually nurturing, but boy, that's a big nurturing aspect.
Mm.
Okay, so why don't we move to how do you nurture your mind?
Reading.
Always taking courses.
Mm.
Like an Ollie. Have you all heard of Ollie? Yeah.
Or like this one.
So reading, taking courses.
Good
One of the things I
communication.
Communication.
I'm quite mindful
Mindfulness.
about what media I consume.
Yeah, I
So,
was just going to say monitor news intake.
That's huge for me. For me right now, I'm struggling with that one.
Mindfulness, meditation, to be aware of how the mind functions, and kindness to the mind.
Good. Creating.
I'm a writer, and for me, writing is something I do both to express my mind and also to arrange my mind. Yeah. Make sense of my mind.
Reading inspirational literature.
I do soul collage. I don't know if anyone is familiar with that, but I would put that here.
Soul collage.
I like the sound of that.
I think having stimulating conversations with friends.
Mm.
Similar, being in a book club.
Mhm.
Okay, let's move on to emotions. How do you nourish your emotions, your emotional health, emotional well-being?
Breath work.
Meditation.
Self-compassion.
Giving space to all the different feelings and witnessing them with mindfulness.
Staying focused on loving the people around you.
Respecting my emotions as valid.
I think allowing myself a good cry sometimes is nurturing.
Mhm.
Boundaries are really important for me for looking after my emotions.
Choosing different types of music for whatever emotion that you want to nurture.
Therapy and counseling.
Remembering to pause. For me, it's important to remember to pause, take a breath, go in.
These are all of these so far for body, mind, emotions. They're kind of like the list of how to live your life. So any other ideas on emotion before we move to spirit? All right, let's, how do you nurture your spirit?
Mhm.
Go into my heart.
Being in nature.
That was mine too, Anna. Being in nature.
For me personally, going to my faith community, my church.
Reading and meditation.
Journaling.
I get very joyful doing kirtan, chanting.
Practicing loving kindness towards myself and others and all beings in the web of life.
I was going to say connecting with my ancestors. And noticing and recording my dreams.
I would say exploring different traditions and wisdom faiths. I live in Atlanta, and I've enjoyed going to some traditional Black churches to hear the music, which is really very moving.
Okay, it looks like we lost somebody. Well, as we saw, there are a lot of these things that fit into the different categories, and I noticed that some of them, when you first brought it up, you said it fits into everything, but then you didn't say it again, like playing with animals, for instance, or meditation or yoga or Tai Chi. You know, those are like, they nurture many aspects. And I think what's really interesting is that all the ideas that we gave for spirit are things that we often neglected when we were younger, and they're things that we've kind of moved into as we get older. Partly because when we're younger, we're so busy building a life and building our persona, we're not paying as much attention to our spirit. But it is often this aspect of self, our spiritual or transcendent self, that we are particularly called to develop, if we haven't already, as we get older. So I just want to put that out there. At the bottom of this handout, there are 3 questions. How satisfied are you with each aspect of yourself? How well developed and integrated are the various parts of yourself? And are the various facets of your life in balance? And I encourage you to journal with those questions for the rest of your life, really. keep revisiting them. I think these are really great questions. And in regard to the last question, are the various facets of your life in balance? We have handout 5B, which is something you can use, you know, after this class. But I really like this handout. I think you all have it, but this is a really quick way to do a quick visual to show you if you are out of whack or out of balance. So for instance, on the body axis, you put a point from 0 to 10 where you think you are in nurturing your body. Same with intellect, emotions, and spirit. And then you just connect the dots and you'll see, do you have a nice round circle, or do you have a squished up oval, or do you just have a straight line, you know? So I sometimes just in my mind do this. If I'm feeling a little like wonky someday, I might just do a quick thing and then I'll see, ooh, boy, Reese, you've really neglected your body. You better get out there and go for a good walk, or, you know, something like that. It's just a quick check in with yourself. So I encourage you to use that as a tool for the future. And now we are going to take a little bit a deeper look at our spiritual selves. So if you would please take out, it's a 2-page handout, handout 6, but don't really look at it now. We'll work with it in a minute. I'm going to do a meditation first. I just want you to have it handy so it's ready when you come out of the meditation. All right, so if you would please just get comfortable in your chairs, feel yourself supported in your chairs, and close your eyes if that's comfortable for you. Otherwise, soft gaze down. And just begin to breathe without breathing in any particular way, but noticing your breath, just noticing it. And then as you continue to breathe, breathe deeper and notice the breath in and the breath out in a deeper way. And with that breath, move in to connect to your deepest self, the core of your being, what some may call spirit, some may call your animating force, your life energy, your essence, whatever you call that deepest part of you. Just breathe into it and be with it. Connect to it. And take 2 more connecting breaths. And while still trying to maintain a somewhat meditative state, open your eyes when you're ready and just briefly read through the questions on handout 6. And just notice the one that resonates most with you. And you are now going to have 5 minutes to journal with that handout, and just start with a question that first called to you, but you can move on to other questions if time allows. So 5 minutes. Noise. We didn't journal for the whole 10 minutes today, as the instructions on the sheet indicated. That said, I hope that you'll be able to use as much time as you need to really work with these questions now and in the future. You know, these aren't questions that have an expiration date or where the answers don't change after a period of time. So continue to kind of use those questions. We are going to move in dyads so that you can share with another person your reflections on your spiritual selves. This sharing is an opportunity to really experience what it feels like to deeply listen and to be deeply listened to. As before, when you get into your dyads, decide who will speak first and who will listen. You will be in your dyads for, I think, 15 minutes. For 15 minutes. And it looks like we have an even number of people, so you will all just be in a dyad. Yay. So when you get into your dyad, decide who will speak first, who will listen first, and remember to switch speaker to listener about halfway through. When you're the speaker, speak about which question resonated with you and why, and your initial response or reaction to that question. When you're the listener, and often it's harder to be the listener than the speaker, listen without interruptions. And if the speaker pauses, allow space for silence. Often the speaker then will start speaking again out of that silence. If the speaker seems to have finished speaking, the listener can ask, can they reflect something back, or can they ask a question? And if the speaker says yes, then the listener can do that. So we call this listening each other into deeper speech. Any questions about this dyad?
Would it be possible for you all to tell us when to switch, like you did last week?
Yes, yes, Ruby will go in halfway through and say you're at
Great.
mid.
Great. Thanks.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. And enjoy your dyads.
Welcome back from your dyad. It's always so much fun to see you guys all pop back on the screen. I love it. Okay, well, we're going to talk a little bit about your experience right now. And so I'd like to ask you, unless there's a lot of ambient noise where you are, I'd like you to ask you to all unmute yourselves, and we're just gonna popcorn style. We've done that already. You know what that's like, how that works. And I have a couple of questions for you. First, what did it What was it like? How did it feel to be deeply listened to? And by deeply listened to, I mean to be the person experiencing the deep listening of your partner, not being interrupted, not being asked questions, not having somebody commenting on what you're saying, but just to speak and be deeply listened to. What was that like for you?
It felt great to, I felt like was so non-judgmental that I could say anything. And it was just what a gift that was. I appreciated it.
Uh-huh.
And I have spoken.
And we have heard.
Vicky was a very good listener. I felt very safe, and she was really interested in what I had to say. And when I stopped speaking, she asked me a couple questions, and it was very, very helpful.
And did the questions, Roger, make you feel like she had deeply listened to what you had to say?
They did, and there was a sincere interest.
Uh-huh.
He's had a fascinating life.
Thank you. I have spoken.
And we have heard. Thank you. Thank you, Roger. Other reactions to being deeply listened to.
I felt relaxed. Oh, and I felt relaxed and leisurely about the time. And I always appreciate being listened to without when the other person's not going to be commenting right away. Sometimes in conversations, I'm pausing for a moment and ready to say something else, but the person steps in. And so, yeah, so that, that doesn't happen during this time. And it was wonderful to be listened to so well by Katie. Yeah, thank you.
I confess I was a little nervous at first. I was articulating something deeply personal that I've never actually put words out loud to. And I was a little nervous at first, and then I could feel that my listening partner, William, I was looking closely at his face and I was realizing it was okay. And I think knowing that he wasn't going to comment helped me to kind of keep going and get comfortable. And then by his questions, which were insightful and curious and helpful, I felt really heard and accepted. Thank you, William.
Thank you.
Mm.
I felt much the same. I also felt like it was really the introduction to a conversation that I want to have. It's nice to be able to speak uninterrupted, but it's just opening the door for all that I wanted to talk to about with my partner.
Sometimes the first step in a deep conversation is to be deeply listened to.
I felt very listened to by Kathy. And I wanted to listen to her more. I felt she was a great listener and seemed genuinely interested, as Roger said. And I felt I wanted to do the same for her more.
So I think you're touching, Amy, on one of the really important points about deep listening, because when one of us does deep listening for someone else, we also inspire and encourage them to deeply listen to us. And sometimes we don't realize that's what's going on. That's why the feedback right now is so helpful to hear that.
I felt the same way about Amy, and I also appreciate that I really could talk because I have some close friends who are from the New York area, and I'm from the Midwest. And good, nobody's from. I mean, this is here. People from New York talk, and they don't. And and constantly interrupting you. And so, and so it was so nice to feel like I was being listened to and have that pause and really think about what I want to say rather than having somebody jump in and then, oh, yeah. That's all I'm gonna say.
It was also quite helpful to have the instruction not to jump in, because what my partner was talking about was so interesting. You know, I wanted to get stuck in, and it was good to be reminded to just sort of hold back my curiosity and allow that space. It was a helpful reminder. Yeah.
The very first time, Jody, that I did an Awakening the Sage Within workshop, one of the women that was talking, we were in this same point. We were harvesting the wisdom of what we had learned in our dyads. And she said, I wasn't in control anymore. Because she said, I realized usually when I have conversations with people, I control the conversation by asking whatever question I'm interested in. And she said, but I had to hear what they had to say, what they were interested in saying. And I gained so much insight from hearing her say that about how many times, and it reinforces for me, Kathy, what you said too about, you know, New Yorkers jumping in. It, in a way, really deep listening means the person speaking is in control of the conversation, not us. And sometimes it's a little hard to give up controlling the conversation by pointing it in the direction we want it to go by asking questions. That can be tough. So let me also ask about your experience being a listener. Were you able to deeply listen without responding? I think Jody is touching on this. What was it like to be a deep listener without responding or judging or analyzing? Was it hard not to jump in?
I would say in some ways it's a relief. You know, I often feel responsible for the quality of the conversation, that I need to be on for the other person so that they'll receive positive feedback for one thing, but also so that the conversation won't peter out. And so it was a relief in some ways to again to have those instructions, and of course, you know, the good fortune of having a really interesting person to listen to makes a big difference there.
Because it can be a challenge to deeply listen if a person is extremely succinct or guarded or uncomfortable in their half of that kind of a dyad. Yeah.
Or honestly, if you feel like you're not that interested in the person.
Yes. Yeah. That's very honest, William. Thank you. That's very true. Very true.
I struggle with listening. I have a little ADD that Vicky was sharing very personal things, and I was very interested, but sometimes I might want to say something, and so I struggle with it. But I do get who the person is and what they're saying, and so I'm working on it right now.
I feel that the deep listening is wonderful, and it creates a safe space. I feel like Rebecca and I created a very safe space in which we could share about death, and in particular the death of her daughter. And so we had a wonderfully deep sharing around that issue for her.
I do think that this particular topic, your spiritual self, exploration of your spiritual being, requires deep listening. I don't know about you all, but I know in my life, there aren't, like some of my good friends, I don't go there with because it's kind of in a deeper place. It has to be held in a different way. And I think that that is what the deeply, it's about holding the space to allow what needs to be said to be said. And anyway, I just throwing that out there. I don't think we have much opportunity for these kind of deep conversations in our life. And in response to what William was saying, these particular questions I think are always interesting. You know, regardless of your life experience or your personality. I just find them fascinating.
I agree with you there.
Well, one thing that we're finding out, I mean, I'm a social worker, and is that a pretty common experience, like throughout people everywhere, is, pretty much everybody has experienced some form of trauma in their life, whether, uh, of any kind. And but one of the things that overcomes that is relationship connection. And that's what heals.
Yes.
Vicky, did you feel like you were able to deeply listen
Mhm.
and that made you feel more connected?
Yeah, I was fascinated. I'm fascinated by people.
But in this particular
Yes,
instance,
yes.
Did anybody find it difficult not to jump in? I know Roger has touched on that point. Sometimes things like ADD, sometimes things like just being a high energy person, sometimes things like dealing with your own curiosity. There are lots of things, or nerves. I think William touched on the issue of the person not having much to say or maybe not being very interesting. We try to pull things out of them. Did any of you have a moment or two when it was hard to go into the deep listening mode?
I found it, I was so fascinated by just the full range of her amazing experiences and skills and outreach and everything she did about connecting with herself. There were so many, I had so many questions, but that was the hard thing for me, not to ask those questions. But and then at the end of the time, there's so much more you would ask, but then it was over. So that's my problem. Her conversation, her side of the conversation opened up so many things in my mind that I would have liked to continue to talk about.
And of course, as Reese mentioned to us all in the first session, awakening the sage within is only a taste of the core concepts in saging. So we only have a limited time to be able to do this today. And if we had more time, we would be doing a lot more deep listening, and we would be able to have some exchanges where we did have an opportunity to ask some questions, and then we could go on and do some deep listening again as the person answered those questions. So unfortunately, to touch on all of the core topics of awakening the sage within, we can't go into as much depth as we would like. And I'm glad you're missing that, Katie. I'm glad you're missing the opportunity to continue that conversation. Amy, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, there was one thing that came to mind as you were talking, and I didn't mean to interrupt you by raising my hand.
No, not at all.
Doing this by Zoom, I mean, there is this something there. For me, I think I would say that's the hard part. And it has been. I mean, I'm a therapist and I do in person because I need that connection. And I also need to see the whole body. So there is just a little something missing for me, just really heart connection. I'm thankful and I have immense gratitude for this wonderful technology, but there is just something missing, I find.
I of course agree with you. And at the same time, I have some very, very dear, I'm in Indiana. I have some very, very dear friends out on the West Coast. Reese and I have friends out on the West Coast. And we've been able to keep in touch all this time, even though we haven't been able to visit by doing this. And our practice is deep listening when we're together.
Mm-hmm.
So you do the best you can, and at least we have the technology.
Mm-hmm. Thank goodness.
And I agree too. There's nothing like being in a room together in person, but I just want to put a plug. I mean, we try to create that as well as we can here, but I also think there is mystery in bringing groups together. And this particular group could not have been together if we were sitting in a room together. So I like to think of it that way, like, wow, this is our circle. We couldn't do this in person. So there are pluses and minuses to
We
everything.
saved you all a lot of airfare, hotel bills. Well, it's time for us to take a break, for a comfort break of 10 minutes. So if you'll take a peek, I have 2:22 and we should be back in 10 minutes. On my clock, it's going to be 2:32. So I'll see everybody in 10 minutes. I hope everyone has had a chance to maybe get up and walk around and stretch a little bit and maybe refill your glass of water. And you feel reinvigorated now to go on to our next core topic, which is life review. So remember, Reese and I said just a minute ago to remind you that we have a lot of core topics in saging, and this is only a little taste of what life review is like. Life review is a huge topic. We could probably spend 4 weeks just talking about life review and doing life review exercises with you. So this is just a tiny taste of a larger project. And there are opportunities in saging to go into this in more depth. What life review is it's looking back over the significant events and relationships that have shaped our lives. Life review, let me remind you, you may want to use the slide bar so that you can continue to see these pieces and parts of life review while you also see all of us on screen. So life review includes positive as well as negative experiences. And it includes our mentors, those wonderful people who have helped us along, as well as people that in saging we call our severe teachers, those who taught us some hard life lessons. We all want to live a full, rich, satisfying life. And life review is one of the things that can help us complete our lives as we travel around the sacred circle of birth to death. So I want to ask if anyone has been thinking about the circle of your life and what would bring you a feeling of completion in your life. And sometimes we talk about this as in regular speech, we often talk about this as having a bucket list. Things that you want to achieve, things that you want to do, things that you want to see. So I'm just going to ask all of you, have any of you been thinking about the things that would bring you a feeling of life completion, or any things that have been on your mind lately that you really want to have or do or say or pursue during the rest of your life? And I'm just going to ask people to unmute and let us know what their thoughts are about that. If you've had that experience, everybody doesn't have to come in, everybody doesn't have to have had that experience, but if you have, would you share with us what that is? William, do you want to go first?
Sure. I'm in the middle of a long-term creative project, writing project, and I am 100% committed to it, and excited to complete it, and feel like I'm finally at the I have enough of whatever it takes to make this project successful. And that's a function of aging, that's a function of my life experience. And so it gives me direction and purpose in my work life right now, and I'm very grateful for it.
And have you spoken?
I have spoken.
And we have heard. Who else?
Well, I'm trying to start the next phase. And to me, I want to find what my purpose is. And because I'm way beyond retirement, I've got to retire sometime. So I have a huge transition period ahead of me, and I don't know what that's going to look like. So to me, it's stepping off that cliff and finding there's something beneath me. It's going to be completely different. And so it's a purpose, and it has to be meaningful. And I have no idea what that is right now. I have spoken.
And we have heard.
Roger here. It's been six years since my wife passed away, and I feel like I'd like to be in a relationship. I enjoy a partner. I travel a lot, and I just haven't found somebody that I'd like to have one more great love in my life before I pass. I'll be 76 next month, and I've had such a full life, and I feel like I miss that. I have spoken.
And we have heard.
We have heard. Anna, I think I may have mentioned last week that I recently moved to Bellingham, Washington from Asheville, North Carolina, where I'd lived 35 years. And my one thing that I am looking forward to completing soon is revising my 5 wishes document, in which I have listed my close friends in Asheville whom I want to be with me if I get the death that I desire, have a good death, like at home, and what I envision. And I'm just in the process of getting to know people here well enough and picking a couple people whom I want to be with me. So I'm excited about that happening and connecting with on a deeper level with a couple, 2 or 3 or 4 people here, and redoing my 5 wishes document. That's very important to me. Thank you. And I have spoken.
And we have heard.
I just have to say, I spend the summers in Asheville every year, so I'll be going up there in July. Okay.
Let me talk about the next thing on that list that we showed you. in life review also, we can think back and identify or recognize or affirm the values that have guided us through life. And this can prepare us to share our values with others in our work as elders. So I wonder, has anyone found themselves looking back either at the continuity of your values as they've guided you throughout your life, because that's something that we can do when we reach this age. We can look back in life review and we can see the values that seem to have guided us in our life, or maybe the change and evolution of your values over your lifetime. Maybe what life review is going to help you do is see how you've evolved some values as they've changed with life experience. So does anybody have an example about how that's been happening for you? Have you noticed that in your life?
I'll jump in and say something. Since the 60s, I was on a very spiritual path. I went to India, I took LSD, I Scientology, Vipassana meditation, Monroe Institute, a lot of growth work. And as I got older, I realized I wasn't really like a human being. I wanted to escape from and go to the next. I wanted to be out of my body and be more in God consciousness. And as I get older, I feel life is much simpler than all that, and just waking up and looking at the sunset and appreciating it. The miracle is right here in front of us. So it was a big wake-up call for me to be more of a human being and connecting with other people. And so it was very special for me. I've spoken.
And we have heard.
Okay.
You know, sometimes some of these questions can spur us to think about some of these topics that we haven't really thought about yet as part of life review. Another thing that happens in life review is when we harvest our life's wisdom by doing life review, it can encourage us to remember or acknowledge or celebrate who we are and the contributions that we have made to our family, to our profession, to our community throughout our lives. Maybe we have downplayed those. Maybe we have, once we've retired, maybe we have not thought too much about the professional contributions we made to the world. Maybe we don't think too much. We're very modest and humble and don't think too much about the things we're contributing to our society or to our family. And so life review can encourage us to recognize and to enjoy and to be really proud of the fruits of our labors. And it can give us a feeling of accomplishment that we really, it's a really important part of being an elder, is to recognize that. So I wonder, has anybody had a moment recently where you kind of thought back and you recognized maybe how much you've accomplished and how much you have to be proud of in your life? Has anybody had one of those moments that you can recall?
Actually, yes, now that you mention it. Have in the group that I was in when we were reading this book, Saging, Aging to Saging, we talked about the wisdom of the elders, and I was thinking to myself, well, I don't have any, I haven't had any impact on my family. I'm kind of like, I mean, I moved here for them. They want me here, but they want me here. So I was just feeling like, And then my birthday came around, and each one of my children wrote me a variety of points in this letter kind of, and I realized that I have had an impact with my children. And that I was a lot more significant. I mean, how foolish of me not to think I was significant, but nevertheless, I did feel that way. But reading these was so overwhelming in telling me that, wow, I really have had this impact with each one of my children. They had particular memories and it's been very significant for me in terms of this moment. Let me put it that way. So I have spoken.
And we have heard. Does Susan's sharing make anybody think of something like that that's happened in their lives where
I
they've
have to say that I had a very conservative, normal, leave it to Beaver home for many years, and took care of my family and studied. I studied a lot of languages, but nothing to earn money, nothing serious. I was just a homemaker, and then a divorce and change of life. And all of a sudden I had to go to work. And so I switched from philosophy and French and German to social work and got a job and have had an unusual, amazing success in my work in the last 18 years. And it's not that I think of being so proud about, but what I think about proud is my kids. About 5 years ago, it was my birthday, and they said, Mom, and I was saying, I hope life wasn't too difficult because of the divorce and all of that. And they said, oh no, Mom, you are my role model. And I thought to myself, a role model? I'm not even a role model to myself. And it's that resilience factor, because they saw me, that I had to completely remake my life in my late 50s. And I was a success at it. And I thought to myself, wow, so I don't care as far as my career, what I'm leaving behind, although the program it has been very successful, but that's not important to me. The important part is my kids were able to see me and go through some challenging times and come out on top. And so I think they've internalized that. I have 2 girls and a boy, and especially my girls. They've internalized that. And so that's going to be probably my most lasting legacy that I'm able to pass to my kids. I've spoken.
And we have heard. So sometimes I think, Susan and Katie, what both of you are saying is you were very fortunate to have an external source that really gave you some life review ideas, that your life review came not from your doing it for yourself, but came from your children providing the impetus to this life review. And one of the things we can also do is not necessarily be dependent on maybe someone that we worked with or one of our children or one of our friends to tell us this. But one of the things we try to do in life review is for us to tell ourselves these kinds of things, to explore our lives. And it's great if you can get that external validation, but we also can do it for ourselves internally by going through and thinking about what these things are. And I'd like to go on to the very last benefit that we had up here in our slide and look at the idea of repairing or reframing our memories. And so I want to direct you back to, remember, Reese and I had the box of the unlived life up on the screen, and Ruby is going to show that to you again. Remember that box of the unlived life, and on the left-hand side, you can see a whole bunch of painful things in the past. And Life Review offers us the opportunity to look back at all of those difficult experiences and relationships from the perspective of now, of us as our older and wiser self. And we can make a choice about whether we want to repair a relationship, for example, or we want to reframe what happened in that relationship to reflect our understanding. And maybe in some cases, we can let ourselves off the hook a little bit for what happened with someone we cared about. If we choose to, this is all a matter of personal choice about whether we want to go back and try to repair, whether we want to let something go, whether we want to reframe memories about our relationships with people from the wise elder that we are now, because we've accumulated a lot of life experiences. So we may see the past in a different perspective than we did at the time something happened. So I wonder if anybody has found themselves rethinking or reconsidering experiences or relationships or some of the mistakes or the embarrassments or the misunderstandings of their past life, and kind of reevaluating those with the insight and the wisdom that you now have as an elder. Has anybody had, when you look at those in the past, the failures, relationships, missed opportunities, you probably felt one way when it was happening, but now you have insight and wisdom to maybe think about that differently. Has that been anything that's happened to any of you?
This isn't exactly a response to your question, but it makes me think that that trauma has come up a couple of times in conversations here in this circle, and I'm curious to know how wise elders have managed to metabolize the trauma in their life and reframe it, as you say. And so, while I don't have any answer to that, I'm curious to know how it's done, how other people have done it, and I've spoken.
And we have heard. Can I ask you to say a little more, like how does that process work, is what you're asking?
I would like to learn from the experience of people who have successfully metabolized their trauma and incorporated it into their wise elderhood.
I can speak to that just from personal experience. To me, forgiveness has been a major thing on my plate for a number of years now. I won't go into particulars. We've all been there. We passed through relationships. We passed through things that there's no wrong or right, but we need to learn how to forgive. And I find the hardest things to forgive, when you do it, you let go, and you can look back and you realize it was just a path going forward. And so I don't know about feeling good about it, but I think to me, it's as you get older, being able to forgive for no good reason. You don't have to have a reason to forgive, but just forgiving, and you move on and you release that burden. I've spoken.
Katie, thank you for doing that, for bringing that up, because happily in our next session, Reese will be touching on forgiveness. So that is coming. And
okay, sorry.
very briefly is because we're ready to move on to our next piece of an exercise, but I wonder, is there one last comment on doing this reframing or rethinking of these relationships that someone would like to say?
I realized recently we've all had trauma and shit happens. We're on this planet. I've been married 4 times. I have children from different wives, and my last love, she passed away. What I realized was every time something happens that I'm not happy about, it was a gift for the next thing to happen. It's all perfect. There is nothing to, forgiveness is so important, but there's nothing to lose sleep over. You just kind of accept that, and you open another door closed, another window opens, and it was a very powerful realization for me that I've been responsible my whole life for what's happened to me. And I trust life now that I don't have that fear, oh no, what's going to happen today when I get out of bed? I just, in a way, it's all beautiful, no matter what it is, accepting.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Well,
Well, so the whole point of life review is it helps us step out of that box of unlived life because we're confronting our past, the goods and the bads of our past. And obviously you can do that in a lot of ways, but we're going to try an exercise now that I think you might find really interesting. We all long, I think, for deep connection with another person, and I think we're all finding some of that in our dyads. Doing saging work in a community like we're doing today, it gives us the opportunity to really connect with other people as we are doing. And we sometimes call that spiritual intimacy. So in saging, we use a contemplative tool to help us further that spiritual connection with another person called social meditation. And so this might sound a little weird because usually we think of meditation as something we engage in alone, but this is a group practice that allows us to experience the support of the community, and it can enhance and it can deepen our individual practice. So being in a safe environment with people we trust, like we've established in the last session and in today's session, it allows us to kind of let go of our ego and drop our usual defenses and go more deeply into the work that we all need in order to age well. So to do this, I'm going to ask you to please take out handout 7 called Harvesting Wisdom, which is a grid of questions about your life. And you will be in a dyad working with a partner, and you'll be asking each other those questions. Now, the first thing I'd like you to do is take a pen or a pencil that you have there with you, and I'd like you to number the boxes randomly. And I have done it in a way that looks like this. I went 1 through 4, and then I went back and went 5 through 8, and then I just started just going all over the place. And you'll see at the bottom, I've just got numbers, I stuck them in a bunch of different boxes. So just 1 through 20 randomly on your boxes. Now, the really interesting part about this way of doing the questions that you ask your partner is that by doing this random numbering in a way you're gonna understand it in just a minute. It's gonna surprise them. It's gonna be a surprise to you and a surprise to them, which makes it really fun. Does everybody do you all have your boxes numbered? Are you all okay with the numbering? Okay, great. So Reese and I are going to demonstrate this process to you. And then we're going to invite you to go into dyads with a partner and do exactly the same thing that Reese and I are going to do right now. And the idea with these questions and answers is to move quickly back and forth between the two of you, asking and answering kind of random questions from all over the handout. And as you do this, please do this quickly. You don't have to spend a long time thinking about your answer. We're going to ask you to remember the saying, first thought, best thought. Okay. And we're going to do an interesting little technique that Reb Zalman has talked about called lending a good ear. So we're going to show you how to do that now. Instead of looking at each other in your dyads, you're going to turn your head and you're going to put your ear towards the screen and you're going to really listen ear to ear. If we were in person, we would have you sitting on chairs next to each other, facing in the opposite direction. So you would have your ear next to the other person. But since we're in Zoom, we're going to do ear to ear, lending a good ear in a slightly different way. Okay, so we're going to show you how to do this now. You're going to put your ear toward the screen.
I'm just going to turn in my chair like this.
And you're going to select a number. And so this is how it works. Reese, do you want to go first?
Yes, I'll go
Did
first.
I forget something? Did I forget to say something?
No, that's okay. That's okay. Just,
Okay, Reese is going to go first.
okay, Georgiana, number 7.
An important milestone or turning point in
So
your life.
what Georgiana is doing is finding the number 7 on her squares and reading that question to me. So I don't know what number 7 is.
And you may not have, your square may not, your number 7 square, all of you will have different number 7 squares. This is just the one I happen to put a 7 on, which is why it turns out to be a surprise to everybody. So I'm going to surprise Reese by saying an important milestone or turning point in your life was?
When I moved away from Seattle.
Thank you. My number is 15.
All right, Georgiana, what's one thing you want to accomplish or complete before you die?
I want to travel to Turkey.
Thank you. And then I would give Georgiana another number and we keep going.
So does that make sense? So you keep giving numbers, but you don't know what they're necessarily going to turn out to be. It's really fun to do. Okay, so we're going to go into dyads for 10 minutes. Once you arrive in your dyad, just go back and forth the same way we did, taking turns, giving numbers, answering, and are there any questions? Okay, Ruby, take us into our dyads, please. Welcome back, everybody. I hope you had a good time doing that. It can be fun, it can be crazy. So I wanted to ask you, I'd like to kind of harvest the wisdom that you gained from doing that so you can share, the wisdom you gained about yourself in doing that exercise. So what insights did you gain from doing that about yourself? How do you understand yourself or your wisdom better now than before you did that exercise?
You're muted, Roger. You are muted.
It was great that I could remember all these past moments. All these questions brought up different segments of my life, and it was very opening and exciting to revisit some of these moments.
Great.
Okay, I've spoken.
And we have heard.
I was really surprised by one of them asking me what inner voice was I ignoring, because I didn't know I was. And it kind of came through loud and clear. And I was like, oh, really? Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know. So that was great. And also, I just want to acknowledge that Vicky and I got cut off in the middle of her sharing. And I just want to say, I sent you a little message, Vicky. Yeah. Thank you. I have spoken.
Sometimes you get those little voices you weren't expecting.
Ooh.
But we have heard your wisdom.
Let's just hope I have.
I think a real takeaway from this is that I would like to spend time in life review. When you just hear life review, it sounds so abstract. And I was like, where do I start? What is this? But this offered a direction that made me ponder things I had never thought before. And so I think that my personal homework is going to be to really take a look in terms of the stages, so I'm grateful for that, and I have spoken.
And we have heard. Susan, are you thinking of the stages that Reb Zalman has in his book, From Aging to Saging?
Correct. I mean, I might use that kind of like as a jumping off point, so I don't jump all over the place. But because when I first saw it, I was like, "What? You're kidding me!" But now, now I want to get into it.
It's making more sense. Yeah.
Yes,
At the end of the book, From Aging to Saging, Reb Zalman has a number of exercises that he suggests we do. And one is the one that Susan is alluding to. And it takes you on a good life review. And you can do it. One of the people I know said he did it 7 times. Wow. He went through the whole process. Every time he came up with different thoughts, different answers. Well, what do you know about yourself that you didn't know before you did this? I think Jody talked about her inner voice, but did you learn about some things about yourself that you didn't know? Did you hear yourself say anything that surprised you?
Well, I had a question about regrets. What was it? With whom do you have regrets? So I just laughed because the list would be so long. We'd be from now until next year. And it reminded me, first of all, not to get too down on myself, because if I lived this many years and didn't have regrets, then I wouldn't have been living. But it showed me maybe that's where I can start, because looking back, I've worked real hard on forgiveness, but I haven't really focused on regrets with people. And so maybe if I focus down on specific regrets, maybe I can take that as a learning lesson and go forward and clean up my act, so to speak. But that kind of caught me off guard, and I have spoken.
We have heard. Any other surprises or insights that came out of this exercise? I wish we could have done it for 10 minutes longer than we did, so you could have gone through even more questions. Well, there are lots of ways to do life review. So Reese is going to talk a little bit about a couple more of them.
Yes, thank you everyone for your sharing today. So yes, there are many ways to do life review. Some of them are from aging to saging. There's, autobiography courses you can take, but so you can keep a personal journal. You can write your life story as a legacy. You can share your stories interactively with others, and you can capture your life stories digitally using a voice recorder or a video recorder. There's lots of ways to do it. And it sounds like a lot of people in this group are already kind of doing certain forms of life review, so that's great. So to review what we've accomplished today, we've had a very, as Jana said, we've skimmed the surface to spiritual growth and life review. And next time we will begin by covering forgiveness, which life review is sort of the direct chute into forgiveness. So we'll start there, and then we're going to work on facing our mortality next week. So before we extinguish our candle and close our circle today, I'd like you all to think of just one word or phrase that captures your feelings about the time we spent together today, or what your takeaway is. It could just be a general feeling, or it could be something specific that stuck with you during the session. So when you have something in mind, if you would just raise your digital hand, we'll all be in the same order on the screen, and then we can just go in the order of hands raised. So just one thing you're taking away with you today. Raise your digital hands so that we'll all be in the same place on the screen.
I don't know where it is.
Just as a reminder, your digital hand is either on your toolbar directly or under reactions.
Okay, it looks like most people are up, and I should be able to remember the ones that didn't have their hands raised. So Susan, let's start with you.
Well, I always thought of myself as a very solitary person, and I'm surprised at my ability to share, and more importantly, the meaningfulness of it.
Thank you. And Anna?
Sorry. And I am appreciating my flexibility.
Thank
and
you.
I've spoken.
And we have heard. We heard. Katie?
Opened up a whole new area of, of what I have to work on. Great. This last exercise is really terrific. I appreciated that. And I have spoken.
And we have heard.
Good.
Amy?
Yeah, I'm feeling very contemplative. I want to go write and journal a lot right now. So I'm very grateful. I also want to tell William that thank you. I didn't get to thank him. Thank you all.
Kathy?
Learning how others experience and explore their spirituality. And I have spoken.
And we have heard. Shanti? You're muted, Shanti.
I've found it so nourishing to be in community and sharing all of our answers and feelings. And it's so much more nourishing than just doing this as an introspective process on our own. I really love that aspect of relational aging, and deeply appreciate the way that our two facilitators have made the process so easy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jody?
Yeah, it's been quite surprising to me today what's come up, and I'm really grateful to that. And also, as someone who spends a lot of time facilitating groups for others, can I just say how lovely it is to not be the facilitator and to be so well facilitated and not to have to do any of it. And you're doing a great job, and I'm so grateful to that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. William?
Yeah, I think the thing I'm taking away is that I just got, I got the opportunity to meet two really wonderful people. And it reminds me that there are thoughtful souls out there looking to grow through the latter part of their life. And it's just a wonderful thing to see the genuineness, to see these living, thoughtful human beings and get a chance to meet them. And I just really valued that. So thanks.
Thank you. And Vicky, you are muted.
I felt like I needed a PhD to find the place to raise my hand. Um, um, uh, um, to be honest, this has been better than I thought it would be.
Yay!
We're relieved to hear that.
And I've enjoyed both of the people that I've talked to, and found everybody to be like very honest and thoughtful, and I've liked the material.
Thank you. And Roger.
I couldn't find the hand. Um, I'm honoring myself that I'm taking the time to do this. I could be playing golf right now or pickleball or going here or going there. And it's been very enjoyable. And everybody here is very sincere. And I feel connected to every person that I spoke with.
Thank you. And Georgiana, did you want to add something?
Well, I'm just taking away the richness of getting to know all of you. And I'm having so much fun and so much joy in finding all of you out in this, kind of space that is our universe of Zoom. And I'm just so delighted that you've all come together and wanted to take this 4-session course and wanted to be with us. And it's just so exciting to do this with all you. Thank you.
And I echo what Georgiana said, and I just feel like I said before, I think mystery brings groups together, and this is like a particularly, thank you, mystery, I say, for bringing this group together. So this concludes our second session of Awakening the Sage Within, and we will meet again next week at the same time. Are there any questions before Georgiana blows out the candle?
Are there any live courses throughout the year where people will go? I heard there's something in Minnesota or something, a convention.
Yes. During session 4, we'll talk more about other opportunities, but it used to be before COVID, really, pretty much all of our sessions were in person. So there are probably people in the area that you live in that do things.
Okay.
But we'll go into more of that during session 4. Anyone else?
Real quick question to Amy. Where do you live? Where do you live?
I live in Baltimore.
Okay, just asking because I also prefer in person. Thank you.
I mean, yes, I do too.
I couldn't afford to travel, so I'm glad for the virtual.
I'm thankful for virtual, but there is something very nice about it. Yeah. Especially like the ear to ear exercise. It's different when you're in person because you can kind of feel energetically that person next to you. Mm-hmm. So anyway, we do the best we can, and thank you all for being here. And now Georgiana will blow out our candle.
Thank you.
We'll see everybody next